Guys, intro time.
Wait, which intro?
The wisdom check.
Oh, good.
Wait, no. I thought we were keeping the old intro. What's wrong with the old one? People like that one.
It was too long.
Yeah.
Too many fucking gifs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can we keep the part where I yell, more?
No.
But it's the intro to end all intros.
I got, 2 lines last time?
Do you want more lines, Tim?
Well, no, not really.
In a world without answers.
Yeah.
Wait, do you want to start with that?
Here we go. Exactly like last time.
Wait, okay, so we're doing it the exact same way? Let's start with Smoky Bar.
No, it's a new season. We have to have a new intro.
More.
Not sure why we thought this would go any differently.
Oh, well. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Check, where Jeff and Dustin welcome a guest every week to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. Welcome.
This is ridiculous. I'm starting the stream now.
Wait, where's my die at? Well, we can't start until I botch. And it's not an intro unless I'm botching.
You're on.
Hey. Right. Welcome, everyone. So we are here tonight on the Wisdom Check. As always, I am Jeff. Over across the way over there is my co-host, Dustin. And we're joined tonight by Alan, who is... Dustin, fill in the blank here with the long list of awesomeness.
Well, he is the... Is it creative director a good word to use for it? For
sure, that works for me.
CEO, the man at the top.
Yeah.
Writer, publisher, all the good stuff, right?
Just don't tell my wife that.
Tell your wife all those things. So Gallant Knight Games, who is responsible for all the different tiny... We say, I'm always saying tiny dungeons, but tiny dungeons is just one of many versions of the tiny system.
Yeah, it's all part of the Tiny D6 system.
Tiny D6 system.
Awesome.
That's the official name of the system. So we have a few people in the chat, Jane Aver, a few others who have actually had a chance to try some of those tiny systems. So they're here because they're obviously big fans. So it's obviously catching on a little bit.
I would hope so.
It's good to come with a crew.
Yeah.
So nice.
Helps.
So, I guess we should dive right on in to start talking about some things here about, first of all, we always like to ask the question of how you got into gaming. So what's your origin story?
Yeah, so 11-year-old Boy Scout camp out in the woods somewhere, and some scout leader had brought the 3.0 rule books.
3.0.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I was 11 years old then. And I was like, oh, this is super cool. I'm going to make a half-elf druid with a dire flail. It's worst character ever.
Yep.
Yep. I was like, I just took all the cool things. And I didn't understand how to make a good character.
Nice.
And I must have annoyed the crap out of them because they killed me 5 minutes in. They're like, no.
Wow. So your first game session was 5 minutes in, dead by players or by...
Well, they encouraged me to go into a dangerous situation, and as a level 1 druid, I bit it.
Oh, wow. No.
But I made another character.
Nice. Okay.
And
got right back on the list.
I did the time-honored tradition of it's his twin brother.
Oh, Montoya.
I didn't even know.
The druid?
It was same character. I literally just changed his name.
Right back in with the same
and I swapped out the animal companion. I swapped out the animal companion for a badger.
Everything. That just changes the whole character right there. It's
but the rest of it was the same. And I told the GM, I'm like, well, I can wait a few minutes and let you guys get ahead, right? Mm-hmm. And I took the monster manual because he was like, on your missions, a white dragon, and I read the white dragon entry when he wasn't looking. And I read my summon spell list, and the minute we got there, and he's like, "And you meet the druid," and they're like, "Dragon," and I'm like, and I summoned this fire thing, and it kills the dragon. And they were also mad, but it was worth it.
So what you're saying is you had a rough launch.
Yeah, well, I feel like I came out ahead.
Yeah. Well, clearly it worked out all right. And that's the thing. It's amazing, going back to those first games and looking back and see, what kind of gamer you were when you first launched in and what kind of gamer you became over time and whether that's changed or stayed the same or, evolved in different ways. So, I mean, what were some of the things in those early days that really appealed to you that kept you gaming?
So I actually didn't get the game again until I went to college.
Oh, okay.
I owned all the books all the way through that. Mm-hmm. And I'd play off and on with my family, my brothers. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in North Dakota. Mm. in a very rural area, so it wasn't really anybody to play with. I had to drive to like the nearest. It was Walden Books to buy my RPG books at the time.
We know that pain right there. We live in
Small
rural
towners.
Illinois, and it was a drive to a bookstore to find something too, right?
Right, and like they only stocked D&D and like vampire books. That was it.
Yep,
Right,
maybe
like,
one of
barely
each
stocked
book,
D&D.
if that.
And then maybe you'd find like at the time I think like the EverQuest RPG had just come out, and maybe you'd find an EverQuest RPG book or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's only because they didn't know what it was.
right, and so. I had all the books all the way through 3.0 and 3.5, and I read them ad nauseum. I made characters. I tried to get I got 5 younger siblings, and they were the only thing I had close to people to play with. So I was trying to rope them into playing a game, and it never really took off. So a bunch of failed starts until I got to college, and then I discovered all my roommates played.
Oh, nice.
And it was downhill from there, both in terms of GPA and my budget.
Did you pick your roommates, or did you just random lottery it and you got lucky, or?
I random lotteried it, and what happened was I was there for a semester, and another guy was joining the dorm, and his intro was like, "I love D&D," and one of the guys, my current roommate at the time, was like, "Oh," he's like, "A D&D is for nerds. I'll give you $20 if you room with this dude instead of me." And I was like, "Sure, done. I love D&D. Make $20. Talk
$20 right there,
right?" And I still play with that guy today. It's been 13 years now, and we still play together. We just played last weekend. But
you took that $20, you went to your game store and you bought 2 minis, one for you
I
and
bought-
your roommate, right? So you could start.
that was back when you could buy a slap book for $20.
Yeah, that's right, actually. Yeah. Man.
Pretty sure I picked up
prices have
Complete
changed.
Adventurer.
Oh, yeah. Man,
No, I picked up Complete Scoundrel. My copy of Complete Adventurer is his, and it's still on my shelf.
complete
I haven't given it back.
Good stuff. Those little.
I remember
They were the red books, right?
They were the thin
The little tiny
3.x red books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
they
and
had,
then they
like,
had
they
like
would-
the blue ones.
Yeah, they focused on the class, and they had all the cool class options, and like everything in here is for a rogue, but maybe it makes your fighter a rogue, and it was just like all these really broken, really dumb combos. Oh yeah, that was the best stuff.
That pretty much summed up 3.0.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Until 3.5 came back out, and then it kind of redid itself again in that same light. It was
Yeah,
like,
and then it redid itself, and became
Yeah.
more of that.
You know what though? I still have fond memories. We actually, so the first campaign we played, it was City of the Spider Queen.
Okay.
The 3.0
Okay.
module, right? The long campaign. And maybe 4 years ago, I got everybody in that group together who lived around me still.
Mhm.
We were at everybody but one person, and my wife took the pre-release of that person, and we played that whole module again,
oh, that's awesome.
like 10 years later. And
Did anyone remember?
it was
stuff? Like,
it was painful. Like having to go back to being like, all right, here's your cross skill proficiencies, and you have to multi-class, and here's class skills versus not class skills, and your cap is your level +3, and
Yeah, just little things that they figured out over time.
yeah. I remembered much of the adventure from when we played it the first time.
Yeah, see, that can be a blessing and a curse, I guess. Depending on which side of the table you were.
I was the only one who remembered, so it was fine. And I was playing a really dumb barbarian, so I just kept running into stuff anyway.
Nice.
Did the people who sprung the traps spring the traps again? Because they're just that player who does the same thing no matter what.
That player is me. And yes.
So you're that guy.
I'm that guy when I get bored.
Mm.
Okay.
So you're an instigator then? Is that what you're outing
Only-
yourself as?
Only when Jeff in the chat has played with me as a player, so he's probably seen me do this. But when I get bored, I'll just go do something.
Yep. We've had a few of those players in our groups.
Our DM leans that way a little bit too.
He
sometimes.
sure does.
Sometimes you gotta.
He gets a chance. He'll go just do something.
Keeps things spicy, that's for sure. So, I mean, that's definitely kind of a thing. So, action, keeping things moving, keeping people entertained. What would you say are the things that really keep you going these days? Are they the same as what they used to be, or you kind of still in that same boat?
Oof. Man, I don't know. Maybe it's inertia. I've just been playing RPGs so long now, I don't know how to stop, and I just kind of keep rolling from game to game.
It's part of your soul now.
It's just who I am.
Yeah.
No, so I play with my wife, and that's a lot of fun, and we I know we definitely lean a lot more story focused than we used to, but I mean we just wrap Tomb of Horrors, so sometimes we kick it old school and we just grind it out. So
Sure.
I don't know, I just love playing games. I love sitting down, I love making characters, I love telling a cool story. I like it all. I like watching people's face when they roll that perfect natural 20 or that critical one, or when the plot clicks in their head and there's that oh shit moment, right? Like
those are my favorites. My personal favorites is when all of a sudden things suddenly make sense and it clicks in their head. You see that look. It's like I just had that at my game shop yesterday where I was running this Whitehander game, and they hit a crucial point in the plot where they like you could just this player just looks at me and goes, wait, he goes, is that thing? Yeah. Wait, so that means that this is this? I'm like, yeah. But wait, that can't be true. Like he goes through the whole process, and finally you just see like he just couldn't deny it any longer, and that's great to watch that happen. It's probably one of his first games he's ever been in, one of the first times I've ever had that experience, and it is easily my favorite part of DMing is when that happens.
A couple years back, my buddy brought his high school son to play, and his high school son never played RPGs before, and we were running Vampire Dark Ages.
Oh, yeah.
And so like I was like, yeah, we'll make your character, and we were playing, and he was like, this is weird, I don't get this. And then like 3 sessions in, because I think his dad kept making him come because he felt bad because like I'd been like, yeah, I'll make room for you in my group. Now I have 7 people, and I don't like big groups, and his dad knew that, so he's like, no, I got to make him come because I made Alan, make an opening. And then like it was like session 3 or 4, you saw it click. Like he did something. I was like, all right, that's great. And then this person responds. He's like, oh wait, what? I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, oh, so I can do this. You could just see like the wheels start going, and you could smell the rubber burning, and you're like, oh, this kid's getting it now.
Yeah, it takes people a long time sometimes to catch on to what gaming lets them do. Because you find a lot of people are used to like playing board games or something where the rules are very, spelled out. Here's the actions you could take on your turn, period. But when you really get into a game session, the sky's the limit. It's how far do you want to push the envelope?
My favorite example, when people are like, why do you play RPGs? Why don't I just play a video game? I'm like, so I was in college when Fable came out.
Okay.
The first Fable game, right?
Uh-huh.
And I remember playing it with my buddies, and I remember being like, there's your quest over here on the map. And I'm like, oh, I can see the quest point. I'm just going to run across this field. And the game's like, you can't jump the fence. And I was like, wait, what? I have to like run all the way around? But there's a fence in a field. Like, let me go. Yeah. And I'm like, in my RPGs, that never happens. Right. You can always jump the metaphorical fence. Sometimes not the real fence, because that's funny if you fall. But,
botch your athletics check. You're not making it over. Sorry. That's cool stuff, man. I love especially watching new players, just to see kind of how they interact with the game when they first start off. There's certain things that are going to appeal to them. There's certain times people are going to act like themselves and kind of hide in a corner, maybe if they're the shy type. But eventually it always comes down. They find that one character trait or that one NPC that just like breaks them out, and then boom, they're ready to go.
Yeah, it's really rewarding.
I always find too that like whenever a player has that moment, that character they're playing is usually not their best character. But when they come back now with another chance to make their next character, that's when they hit their stride. Yeah. Like whichever game you have your like light bulb moment, you're going to be okay in that game from that point on. But when you get a chance to come back with something fresh and now you've had that experience and you understand it and it's clicking, like that next character is usually one of their best.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So it sounds like you've been kind of all over the board with in terms of systems. So
son, you have no idea.
Yeah. Well, it's a good.
I have to have a spreadsheet because I will buy the same RPG on accident, not knowing I own it.
Oh man.
So
you have to funnel through the catalog and find it to make sure it's still in pristine condition. If you see the
I have a very exhaustive spreadsheet, and we just bought a house, and we walked in the basement, and I was like, "This is the house because this room is my game room." And and I'm like, I was supposed to set up my 8 bookshelves. Wow! And I'm like, I'm already out of space. I had to buy more.
So what's
there's books on the floor?
Oh man, that's rough. That's awesome. It's an awesome problem to have. So,
it's a blessing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it tells you you're in a good spot if you can, feed your gaming addiction to that level, Yeah.
So maybe not to help.
Well, hey, it's better than some vices.
I'd say you can spend a lot of money on things that are a lot worse for you. Like, trust me, I work in a hospital. I see it every day. Like,
fair enough.
So, what would you say are in your top tier of games for you personally?
Oh, done. Okay, so first, Pendragon. Second, First Edition Scion from White Wolf. Third, Vampire Dark Ages. And then like fourth and fifth kind of rotate depending on like my mood and the day. But anywhere from like D6 1E Star Wars from West End Games.
Wow.
Man, it just depends on the day. Those ones kind of bounce all over the board, but there's generally like Star Wars or some sort of Savage Worlds rolling around in there.
Savage Worlds is cool.
Yeah.
So what are the common threads there you're pulling at?
Nothing.
No,
There's nothing.
Just grab bags.
Those systems, those
Those are all over the board.
Those are different tastes for different days, is what that is. Like,
yeah, I was trying to slice it up there. I was like,
when you run through one, you get a little tired of it. You go to something completely opposite. Then it seems like
You know what? The One Ring. The One Ring has to be in my top 5.
mm-hmm.
the One Ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, like, I'm asking a lot of these questions because I'm curious about what comes down to design philosophies. Obviously, in the product line you're pushing, there is a rule simplicity that seems to be evoked here. Now, is that what's the kind of the basis of that? Like, why did you go that route as opposed to another?
Do you want the honest truth?
It's up to you, man.
Because
put on the internet, Alan.
Because nobody was making games in that market, and it seemed easy.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
you were versed enough. You could have made a very complex game if you wanted to. I have a feeling like it's inside you somewhere. Right?
Oh, I've got one. It's fine. We don't need to talk about it.
Yes.
No, I mean that's partially a tongue in cheek, right? But what it is like that was when I got married. My wife hadn't played RPGs before. I mean, she had maybe in high school, but not ever seriously. And we were playing, and so I didn't create the first Tiny Dungeon. A company called Smoking Salamander published a game called Tiny Dungeon. I backed on Kickstarter, and I loved it. And I was looking to start my own RPG company. I'd done freelance work already, and I was like, I'm gonna roll into doing my own thing because I don't like working for other people. And I was like, this would be super easy to if I get this guy to license to me, I could create something for this, get my feet wet, kind of. It's an easy rule set for me to understand. I grokked it really well, and I was like, this is the place to kind of, if I'm going to shit the bed, here's the place to do it. Kind of right. Like this is a small, low risk project. Yeah. Right? Everybody working on
to getting into publishing and all that.
Right.
Stuff, right.
Right. Everybody working on it was a friend of mine. So if I had to tip somebody, they would have understood. Right. Like it was that kind of
Gotcha.
I built this big safety net. Right. And so the gentleman licensed me. He was super great about it. And we did our first Kickstarter, and we hit every stretch goal. And I was like, oh, this Kickstarter thing's kind of addictive. I can see where people get crazy making lots of these. And then
a little bigger each time, right?
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. And I really love the system, and he was getting out of making RPGs. And I was like, I'd been talking to him. I was like, look, I'd like the license to do more than just sci-fi. Because my original license was like, you can only do sci-fi stuff.
Gotcha.
Right. Because he was doing fantasy. I was like, I would like to do cyberpunk. I want to do superheroes. I got a whole idea, a bunch of ideas. He's like, well, I'm getting out of it. I'm like, why don't I just buy it from you? Let me just buy the whole thing wholesale. And I'll run with it going forward. And because you're not doing this anymore. He's like, yeah, that's fine. So I paid him. We paid him whatever he got paid. And I became the proud owner, and we rebranded it Tiny D6, and we did Tiny Dungeon 2nd Edition, which is a soft revamp of the system. Like a lot of the core, if you get Tiny Dungeon and Tiny Dungeon, you'll see a lot of the core is the same. But there was a lot of fine tuning under the hood. And I mean, I think we've got like a dozen tiny games out there now. Like this is my primary work system. Like this is my workhorse.
Right.
Well,
I'm getting really good at it.
And your current one, you have Cthulhu.
Tiny Cthulhu is on Kickstarter right now, so go back and give me your money.
Absolutely. So we'll make sure we get a hold of that link, and we will toss it in the chat there. I know it's in our Discord call right now, so
I'm doing it right now while you talk to it.
Excellent, because I can't grab it without ruining our images over here, which would be bad.
Yeah.
But so it's. I would say games like Cthulhu seem to be one of those where atmosphere is king, and where certain thoughts, system thoughts, like characters should be fragile. They should be, different than say like a D&D game. Now, how are your systems accounting for these kind of setting differences?
I would disagree with your core premise, actually.
Oh, okay. Please do.
I don't think a character in Call of Cthulhu is any more fragile than a character in D&D. I think the environment around him is harsher.
Okay. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all about the environment. So the same rule set can power both. Right? It's all about the obstacles you're presenting to the character.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
And so in Tiny Dungeon, let me walk you through how Tiny D6 works, because this is going to make a lot more sense if I give you a crash course.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So in Tiny D6, the core mechanic is what's called the test. You roll 2d6. If either dice shows a 5 or a 6, you accomplish the task. Good job.
Okay.
If you have disadvantage, you roll 1d6. If you have advantage, you roll 3. That's the whole thing. As long as any dice is a 5 or 6 when you roll dice, woohoo.
Okay.
All attacks do 1 damage. Like,
Okay.
that's 1 damage. Armor doesn't matter. Weapon doesn't matter.
Huh.
Like, you hit somebody, you just do 1 damage.
Okay.
Yeah. Because all that stuff is narrative fluff.
It's
Like-
super fast paced that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And you get 2 actions on your turn. There's a list, I think, whatever, right? And then so when you make your character, you pick a heritage or an archetype or whatever, depending on the genre, right? And that gives you your hit points or your health or whatever the genre is. It gives you something called a trait. You get 1 archetype trait. And that's like, this is this archetype special power. So in Tiny Dungeon, the Salamar, which is like a salamander person, their special power is if they touch fire, they heal.
Okay.
Because they're like fire lizards, right? And in Tiny Supers, the Striker special power is you always do a minimum of 1 damage, because Tiny Supers kind of breaks the rules with superpowers, right? So their special thing is they always do 1 damage, even if something reduces damage.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you pick 3 traits on top of that off this list, and that's it. So like you're like, all right, so I'm a Salamar. When I hit regular mundane fire, I heal 1 point every turn. Super cool. I'm going to take the Shield Bearer trait, so now I have a shield and I can block with it. I'm going to take the Tough trait, so I get bonus hit points. I'm going to take the Die Hard trait, so if I run out of hit points, I get a roll and come back 1. And now I'm a Salamar fighter.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's your whole character. If it's not a little 3x5, no
classes. You're just picking sets of traits and then kind of like,
You
hey, now
build
I'm
your-
fighterish because of what I
Right.
built.
And some traits give you a bonus, like Tough gives you extra hit points, right? But like Acrobatic gives you advantage on tests related to acrobatics.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's it, right?
And none of the traits have prerequisites.
None of the base traits do. Some of the games feature. So like Tiny Supers breaks the mold because you have power traits. And power traits are ranked. So you like if I take Fly at rank 1, I can pick it again, and then I get Fly at rank 2, and it's going to be better, right?
Okay.
So to emulate how superheroes work, so they have these like staggered ladders, but the rest of the games don't operate like that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's
So-
more complexity here than I was at first thinking.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was telling you. I was like, it's not rules light. It's
It's not
minimal.
so much rules light. It's
Rules
minimal,
minimalist.
yeah.
Okay.
But
That
it's
makes a lot more
minimal. What
sense.
it is, it's minimalist on the amount of rolls you have to do. Because you
Right,
have a
and-
lot of features that every other game has. You just don't have to
Yep.
roll as much to make them work.
Right, like instead of like, and I'm not knocking D&D. I love D&D.
Yeah.
But like, you have to roll your attack. You have to roll your damage. Right. If there's special abilities, you have to deal with that. You don't do that here. You roll
Yeah,
1
yeah.
dice. Does 1 damage.
Huh.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've been talking about that for Dungeons and Dragons recently amongst our group, talking about more of like the number of hits it takes to finish a fight, as opposed to tracking hit points, just for this very reason.
You know what does that is Tiny D6.
Apparently.
There's 1 damage.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's interesting that this topic has come up a few times, in particular when we're getting into streaming games, because flow in those cases is extremely important, and combat where it's chunky and complex in the table and you don't have a camera on is fun. But when you have a camera on, you have an audience trying to track. They're not getting as engaged with you fiddling with numbers as you are.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you, if you need somebody to come up and run a demo, let me know.
Well,
Hey, we have a show called Spotlight where we bring people on to run their games for us so they can demo it. So if you
Yeah,
come
let's
for
do it.
Spotlight, we'll get you booked. So we'll make it happen.
nice.
Let's
Thanks
make it
for
happen.
that follow there, AVP bot. Much appreciated there. We are getting pretty close to a goal up here. And we're about to hit
Nice.
another
395, I think, or we're at 400.
We're
our
pretty
follower
close.
goal.
Yeah,
we're getting it.
we're going to hopefully get that before C2E2 here, which we got a couple days for that. Not too many. So see if we can get to 400 by the week's end here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the basic premise, right? So when you take that chassis, in Tiny Cthulhu, we add corruption, which represents the encroaching horror of the reality superseding over years, right? And then we add the magic works differently. So in Tiny Dungeon, magic works one way, but now we make it work differently here.
Yeah.
Now we add rules for tomes, right? And so we take this chassis and we just bolt on the extra bits
Gotcha.
that we need to make the genre work. Like Tiny Cthulhu introduces environment traits, which are environmental effects that affect like you as long as you're in this location.
Okay.
And they're used to represent everything from mundane to otherworldly. So you go to the dreamlands of Kedeth, that's going to have a whole set of environment traits that Arkham's not going to have. Right?
Gotcha. All right.
At just the base level, it sounds like you're kind of doing with this what Steve Jackson Games has done with like Munchkin, right? where you can slap kind of any genre on top of this base system. Is there a point where you get to mix and match these rules?
They're all fully compatible.
Oh, right. So you could have a Cthulhu
you have to tweak it a bit. Well, and it's funny you bring that up. So you have to tweak it some. Like a standard character in Tiny Supers is going to be a lot stronger than anything else, right? Because it's a superhero game.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
That's the one that kind of breaks the mold.
Okay.
But the rest of them are all fully compatible. And I know many people who run Tiny Dungeon and Tiny Frontiers, our sci-fi game together, and they'll do like kind of a mashup where they're like, oh, now I'm a polar bear in space. Whoa.
So this is kind of the dream that White Wolf always had at the beginning. It was talking about cross compatibility, which was never true. So it apparently has worked out in this case, which is awesome because there's so many different styles that people want to get into. And opens
all
up
of
your
our
table.
stretch goals in Tiny Cthulhu relate to a different book we've already published.
Okay.
So they're standalone, but if you have that book, you can add extra stuff in, and they talk about how to do that.
Gotcha.
So you have Tiny Supers. You don't need it to play this micro setting, but if you have it, here's all the extra crap you can dump into the game.
Oh.
Here's how to do it.
And now, do you have adventure paths for your Tiny Super games and stuff? Like, is there?
We have a few standalone adventures. We got some campaigns coming.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
We normally don't do adventures as much. They're a lot of work. I find them frustrating to do, so I've not really tackled them, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, from the people we've had on that have talked about creating those, what goes into it, making it general enough, making it available to the average player as opposed to
and
specific
only one
players
person at the table out of 5 is buying an adventure anyway.
True.
Like, it's not the most profitable segment in a lot of ways, right?
Sure.
So we have some quick starts and we have some learner adventures and we publish some and we've got some coming. Like one of our stretch goals to Tiny Cthulhu is a full adventure path.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's definitely something we definitely focus on, like genre usability books at the table more than we focus on the adventures.
Okay.
It makes sense. You're building toolkits for people to utilize.
Right. Yeah.
And those go a long way. So with this kind of game, we've talked a lot about in the past, theater of the mind versus grid, what I'm assuming this is more of a theater of the mind type of game. No,
you can do it just fine.
Yep.
You can do both. It's all right. It takes 2 pages out of the text to do that. So it's in there.
Right on. So the idea was to make it open-ended for whoever's playing the game to pick it up and play as they want.
If you want to count squares, you can. If you want to just be like, he is in near position, that's already in there.
Gotcha. All right. So what about progression? How does that work in these systems?
Yeah. So originally it doesn't have progression.
That's what I was guessing. Yeah.
But there is actually 2 different progression tracks in the game now.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Actually 3, sorry. There's 3. So in Tiny Dungeon, so the original Tiny Dungeon by Smoking Soundminer had no progression at all. Tiny Dungeon 2nd Edition, we introduced 2 types of progression. One was an XP buy, where like you got a certain amount of each thing and you bought. The other one was every 3 games you played, you just got a new trait. Just picked a new trait, like every 3 sessions. That was it. Done.
Yeah, that's nice and simple.
Okay.
You bolt on what you want, because that's an interesting thing to run into. I like these pieces where you can kind of kit out your character personally. So like when a game's got, a trait system, that's pretty cool because you can mix and match. You can come up with different styles of characters pretty easily. And just by how that rolls in. Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to respond to that comment either. You sound like Vince Vaughn, apparently.
Vince Vaughn.
Okay.
All right.
That's a specific one there in the chat.
I've been told worse, so I will not be upset.
Hey, he's a successful actor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, and then we do a monthly e-zine called Tiny Zine that has like kind of like an Unearthed Arcana style grab bag of extra stuff for each game.
Yeah, see, those were things harkening back to the classic days, where you just wait for that newsletter to come out and just like, oh, what's going to come out of here? New test material, new like something crazy,
Sometimes there's previews of upcoming games. Sometimes it's like, here's like halflings aren't in Tiny Dungeon 2nd Edition. So one of the Tiny Zines was like, here's halfling. Here's a bunch of traits for being halfling cooks. Right? Like,
yeah, the things you would never think you'd want.
I was interested in writing about cooks one day, so I wrote a bunch of halfling cook crap.
Oh, that's great. It's where you get your creativity,
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So if somebody wanted to find examples of these games being played, are there currently any big groups running it? Or
So I semi-regularly run it various tiny games on Victory Condition Gaming, which is an actual play YouTube show.
Mm-hmm.
I ran a year-long Tiny Dungeon campaign for them, 12 sessions. I did like an 8-session Tiny Supers game.
Okay.
And I've done one-offs of most of them in there. So like Tiny Wastelands, Mechas and Monsters, Tiny Frontiers are all in there.
Nice. Okay. So,
and that's probably the most, that's the ones I'm on that I know about. I know there are people who stream them and play them, but I actually don't know where.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. A lot of people in our chat, are going out there, they're watching games, they're getting a taste for what a game feels like.
Sure.
And then, deciding to make the purchase based off of that.
Don't judge me by the stuff on Victory Condition Gaming, please. I think at one point I sent them to a place called Stupid Hell because they had pissed me off so bad.
Oh, man. That sounds
That's
like a
horrible.
good night of gaming there.
we had a pair of weightlifting bro minotaurs named Brad and Chad
Oh, God.
as characters.
That's where you start off in a positive place.
I started this like really dark gothic style campaign, and then like session 3 we have Brad and Chad, and they're like, "What's up, bro?"
Oh, my God.
And I was like, "Oh well, here we are."
That's horribly awesome, is what it is.
So it's just like watching a descent into madness as I cry into my computer monitor once a month.
Well, I mean,
It's
that's kind of
what inspired me to write Tiny Cthulhu.
So do you think
specifically that one. Wow. Your descent into madness translates nicely for everyone else.
do you think that the Tiny D6 system, when people first pick it up, like, do you think that it kind of has this sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of thing to it, where people like maybe are not going to take it quite as seriously at first because the system seems so simple, or do you think like it, without seeming overly complex, that?
No, I think there's definitely an element of people that. So not every game works for everybody, right? There are games I don't like.
Yeah.
So I'm never. I mean, I'm a little hurt when people don't like my game. I feel like I worked really hard on it. They should at least appreciate it. But I'm never mad when somebody's like, "This game isn't for me." Right? If you sat down, you read it, you played it, you're like, "I tried it. It's just not my thing." I can dig on that. That's cool. But yeah, there's definitely an element of people who bounce off it, right? Because a lot of the nuance is in how free form it leaves playing at the table to you, right? Like. And it's not that it's not structured, because like you have save tests, you have attack tests, you have all these different things, but they're one rolls, and like it takes 2 seconds. You roll some dice, take it a 5 or 6, done. Okay, let's keep going with the story, right? Like you don't have to stop and look up how a spell.
No subtraction, just straight roll.
Yeah, so we got a question here for the chat that is kind of relevant here. So Defenders Kobold wants to know where they can buy a copy of Tiny Dungeon. Yeah,
so you can get a PDF for print on demand on DriveThruRPG, or you can get it on our web store, galantnightgames.com. There's a little store button on the top bar, just click it. Or you can get it at your local game store. We're in retail, so your local game store should be able to order you a copy.
Perfect. So that's a good question. We've already got one person who looks like they're interested. That's a plus.
I love it.
That's a Chuck there, fellow notorious DMG.
Word.
Yep. Good old streamers there. So maybe you get your content out on a stream even. So awesome. Yeah, I mean, that is interesting, because there are systems, just by the description, sometimes people do bounce off of it. People get labeled as, preferring one style or structure or genre, and then they just never dabble in the other types,
it's definitely, it's so streamlined and honestly simple. Like, it's not complicated. I've taught you the whole game. Right.
Yeah.
Like, there is not more for me to tell you at this point. I cannot complicate it more than I have.
So it really just comes down to the traits, like what you can mix and match.
Yeah. And a lot of people kind of bounce off it, right? Like, it's got that kind of that OSR mindset of rulings, not rules in a lot of places. But it also doesn't. Either sometimes, because it's like, this is how attacks work, this is it, right?
Yeah,
but how you get advantage is often up to you. But if you have disadvantage, it always trumps advantage, right? Like there's this framework, and learning where you have to apply the pressure points, almost like where you have to like apply the pressure points to make the game move right, can be hard for people. I think the crunchier the background you come from, and the more structured you're used to your game being, this definitely can feel foreign and uncomfortable, and I definitely don't think that's I mean, this is what it is. I don't have a way around that.
Hey, so long as it's not one of those games where it's literally just make it up as you go. There's no rules. I'm okay trying it.
Well, that's because you haven't played it with me, but that's pretty much how I run it. I'm like, I don't know, roll some dice, figure it out.
Who writes the book? The moment you decide there's a rule, it's official canon.
I'm like, I don't know, roll some dice, figure it out.
It's on the next errata coming out next month, right? I mean, it's out there. So
yeah,
that's great. Yeah, Jay Nove's saying that he's usually into crunchy games, but he tried the tiny system and it just works. So he's having a blast playing it, and says that you guys have a great character sheet on Roll20.
Oh, we don't. Somebody else made that, but they did good work, so good on them. But yeah, Jano played. He played Tiny Supers with me on the Zweehander Grim and Perilous stream channel. We did like a 2-session Halloween game.
Awesome.
Where because Tiny Supers is our only game that comes with a set universe. Like all the other games don't have a default universe. So Tiny Supers has something called the Gallant Verse.
Okay.
And so they were all in the Gallant Verse doing this adventure, and I was playing a founding member of Century Force Prime, which is like the superhero team named Velocity. And so I came zooming in, and I was like, all right, I'm here to evaluate you trainees. And I just like, as a super speedster, spent the whole session like zooping around doing nothing useful and just kind of dicking around. Well, they were all like trying to deal with problems. I'm like, I'm going to go deal with this. I'm going to get a coffee. I'll be back later.
it's amazing.
Oh, man. So, Jay Nove, since you're saying that the combination of traits is what's key to making your cool characters, have you come across any particular combos that you think really just jive well for you? And just go and make sure you put a comment down there. Yeah, so it's fascinating seeing, where you've taken this so far. Whether it's, we're saying rules minimalist here. Now we've talked about kind of crunchy systems that you were into in the past.
Not in the past
or currently.
I don't even run my game at home.
Mm-hmm. So, like with the crunchy stuff, like what's an example of like a real crunchy game that you really get into, and what is it that appeals to you about it?
I mean, nowadays I don't really get crunchier more than 5th edition or maybe Savage Worlds.
Okay,
like that medium crunch level is where I would land that.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes me and like I don't know, like I like really elegant games. Mm-hmm. Right. And so like I love Pendragon. A lot of people are like Pendragon's kind of crunchy. I'm like, it's not that crunchy. It's actually really elegant. You just need to understand it.
I actually don't know what that game is.
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
I'm sorry. You're breaking me.
Pendragon is the single greatest RPG ever made.
Okay. Let's
bar none.
That's some high accolades.
You're selling a game that isn't your own, huh?
Oh no, all day long. I have a whole blog post about about Pendragon. Like buy Pendragon.
Okay.
If you're like, I have to choose between Alan's game and Pendragon, go buy Pendragon. It'll change your life.
So what's Pendragon doing that is elegant and sweet that you're liking here?
Oh my gosh. So this is a tangent and we're going to be gone for a while. So first, if you want to know about Pendragon, you can go to my blog, alanbar.net. Mm-hmm. And there's an Alan Bar's unofficial / essential guide to purchasing Pendragon in the right order article you can read.
Oh my God.
Is it an order to buying it?
Kind of. So Pendragon is an Arthurian campaign. An Arthurian RPG. That's all it does. Mm-hmm. If you make a character, you are a knight.
Okay.
You cannot be anything else. You cannot have magic. Mm-hmm. You can be a sneaky knight, but you're a knight. Mm-hmm. Right? And the entire system is, so if you're familiar with basic role playing from Chaosium, the D100, Call of Cthulhu stuff, RuneQuest, right? It's that, but with the D20. They were all created by Greg Stafford wrote Pendragon, and he was the founder of Chaosium. He wrote Glorantha and, a bunch of stuff there. So, you have a skill, it's a number, and you roll a D20, and if it's equal to skill or lower, you do the thing. That easy.
Yeah.
And what's so brilliant about it is you have all your skills, you have your stats, you have your stuff, but you have a set called traits, and they are paired personality aspects. So you're like, I am just, or it'd be like, I have mercy, or I have vengeful, and they always equal 20.
Okay, so it's on the slider.
Right, and so if you have one that's 16 or higher and you want to act against it, you have to roll. And if you succeed, you can't violate that core tenet of your personality.
Huh.
If you're merciful, you're gonna be merciful, right?
So it's like a super alignment system.
Kind of, but it's also a really great role-playing guide because when a player's like, what do I do? I'm like, well, look at your character sheet. This guy has insulted you. Are you merciful or are you vengeful? They're like, oh, well, I have a 14 in vengeful. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not enough that you have to do that. But that is how your personality leans. And so new players who never played an RPG are like, oh, this part makes sense because this tells me who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, is that
And so,
randomly generated, or is that something they're picking?
No, it's based on where you're from because certain cultures instill certain personality traits.
Interesting. Okay.
So like, and then your religion impacts it and all this other stuff. And so you make this character and you do a family history thing. Like, what did my grandfather do? What did my father do? Because you inherit stuff. So if your grandfather went to war with the Germans and they killed him, you will start with hate Germans as a personality trait. If you meet a German, you might have to roll not to like try to stab them in the face.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's in your family.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole thing. And then each session is a year in your life.
Wow. Okay.
So when you play, and there's a campaign called the Great Pendragon Campaign.
Uh-huh.
And it chronicles Uther's coronation as king through the fall of Camelot. It's a 90-session campaign.
Wow.
And every session's a year. You play through, and then, so at the end of every year, you do something called the winter phase. You have a manor. You're responsible for managing it. What you build matters. If you build a Conygarth, which is a bunny farm, your lustful will go up because bunnies are always doing it.
Okay.
Because you're influenced by what's around you. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But then if your character dies, your kid inherits what you built him.
Okay.
And they inherit your personality traits and they inherit glory for your deeds.
Huh.
So you play a family lineage almost.
You do. It's a dynasty. You play
single character.
You'll play over 3 to 5 generations through this 90-session campaign.
You can expect 3 to 4 character deaths, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, just by age alone, that's pretty fascinating. The kingdom management's kind of a nice touch too. You don't normally see that.
Not a lot of games do that well.
I love games that have a macro management aspect to it.
Yeah.
Like, you give me something bigger than my character to manage, I will buy your game and I'll throw money at it all day long. Like,
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but nobody ever likes it in our group, so I was get shortchanged.
Are we going to see like Tiny Destinies coming out? Or
Tiny Wastelands has rules for managing an enclave of settlers in the post-apocalypse.
Okay, that's kind of
so nice. I got you covered. I already wrote that.
Managed to find somewhere to slip a little of that in there.
Oh yeah, so Pendragon is my absolute best RPG I've ever played. It's probably the single most influential RPG on my game design elements.
All right.
I think it's elegant. I think it's simple. I think it's brilliant. Pendragon.
I view that like macro level the same way I viewed it when I played like Madden when they finally put owner mode in.
I love
and I was like, hey, guess what? Now that I'm playing owner mode, I'm not actually ever playing the games. There's a certain level of you got to take the micro back out of it if you're really going to enjoy the macro part.
Well, and there's some really great stuff. So like, because you don't have to worry about traveling because you play a year in 3 hours. You're like, and we travel here, done. Right? Unless something that actually matters is going to happen on the way.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? You have to deal with courtship because if you don't have kids, who do you pass your stuff to? So like meeting people and like establishing a healthy romantic relationship is super important. You can only get married if your lord likes you. So you gotta do stuff for your lord because he has to give you your permission. And so like there's all these elements that it's just like a jigsaw puzzle, right? And when you put them all together, it's this perfect RPG.
That's amazing. Our DM Levi actually probably says no magic. Is there magic? I mean, Merlin was in the Arthurian.
Yes, Merlin is there as an NPC, and Merlin's magic rules are Merlin does magic.
And that's it.
Merlin does magic.
Okay, that's it. All right. Well,
stuff happens.
Magic be magic.
Literally, what it says in the book is just like, and Merlin does magic.
So, I think there's like it's a blurb like that. It's like Merlin can enact magic.
You can't.
At the GM's discretion. Yeah, like.
Merlin does stuff that you can't do. Sorry, but good luck.
But because you play through the campaign, there are points where he just shows up. And like, Merlin will show up for you. He'll be like, I have a task for you, knights. And you'll be like, screw you, Merlin. And some knights will be like, okay, Merlin. Because like the Christian knights don't like Merlin because he's a pagan.
Right. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And or like if he screws you, like because Merlin's kind of a dick, he'll like leave you hanging sometimes.
Merlin
it'll happen.
just goes up with the flange mace, right?
Right. He'll just leave you hanging, and so you can actually have like hate Merlin or loyalty Merlin as like a trait in the game, and it impacts your character's behavior.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
I am pretty intrigued by this whole slider system. We've touched base on that a couple times. Other systems that do similar things, but like the notion of influence, I guess we'll use as a word, on what she do at the table is interesting to me. It's like I've seen it in some of the World of Darkness kind of stuff, with like frenzy mechanics or humanity systems or exalted's like compassion, temperance, courage, that kind of stuff. I think the system you're describing is a better version of those because you do get that continuum. And if there's a mechanic to it, the roll under or over to see where you fall could take care of those edge cases where you're
absolutely. Well, and so the two things. So my buddy John Wick says that there's a rule in game design called the Greg Stafford rule.
Okay.
And that rule is if you thought of something cool, Greg already did it, and he probably did it in the 70s and 80s. Right? Because Pendragon is older than I am.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
This is not a new game. He's been doing this for a long time. Right?
That's amazing.
And whatever, let you know her. But it's also true. Every time I design something, I'm like, this is really cool. And I'm like, oh wait, this is kind of from Pendragon, or this is kind of from something else, or
I think this is going to be the nature of creation in general. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. There's just new ways to arrange them.
Yeah, but what's amazing is nobody's taken this concept and said, why don't we just make this a rule set inside of the next edition of like a D&D?
Yeah, they have
come up with something similar.
Oh yeah, they have. Have you played Burning Wheel?
I have played Burning Wheel, but I didn't get far into a campaign to know the difference. I guess maybe.
But do you remember? So Luke Crane is very vocal that Pendragon is his favorite RPG.
Okay.
Or one of his favorite, if not his. I don't want to put words in his mouth, right?
Sure,
but he said multiple times he loves Pendragon. It's hugely influential on him.
And Burning Wheel is super cool, but it's made for longer campaigns for sure.
Right. But if you look at those elements with your personality traits and the way the dice move and things like that, it's Pendragon, right? It's very similar. And Pendragon,
where you're going with that? Your belief structures and things like that,
right? The circles,
right? Yeah,
right. And the way you get advance your stuff in Burning Wheel is you get the checks, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, guess how you advance your stuff in Pendragon?
The more you use it, the more you get.
You get a check, and if you are successful, you get a check in the box. And at the end of the session, you roll, and it might go up or down, right?
Sure. Right.
So, like, I'm a huge Greg Stafford fan. He was hugely influential. I mean, I could talk about Greg's work for hours, and you would never shut me up.
Well, that's great, man.
But game designers owe a huge debt to Greg Stafford because a lot of the stuff we do for granted today, he pioneered, and he doesn't get enough credit for it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's pretty interesting about the genre is just, you look back to some of these old systems and you say, oh, there's some rough edges on here. But then you look at all the groundbreaking things that came out in those times, I mean, when you think of like tabletop RPGs in the first place, we've talked about that being one of the first places people find cooperative games. Like that's just not a thing, in the 60s era.
Right.
Everything has got us versus them kind of feel to it. So it's fascinating, where innovations happen. You're looking at it at the time, you're like, man, I can't believe we never thought of this, and then later on, like you said, it's just something you take for granted.
Right.
Are there any other systems that you could think of that you could point out right now that's just hugely influential into future game designs?
I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Like you get some stuff so I think Pendragon is hugely influential on a lot of game designers, but it kind of flies under the radar, right? Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like if you ask, like, it's sort of that game designer's game. Most game designers know Pendragon, and they're like, yes, this Pendragon is great, right? And then you have other games that are very publicly influential, like Blades in the Dark, right? The whole Forged in the Dark ecosystem is super interesting because it's spawning this whole slew of games that wouldn't have been spawned forever. It's like the Powered by the Apocalypse boom, right?
Okay.
You hit, and then boom, 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 boom. You just Powered by the Apocalypse games everywhere.
Right.
But now we're in third generation Powered by the Apocalypse, where the new Powered by the Apocalypse games are things like Forged, Blades in the Dark, which don't even look like Powered by the Apocalypse anymore. But the designers are like, this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. I just totally reworked it. Right? So you have this really interesting, I find it fascinating to look at games through history because you have things like Pendragon, which for 30 years, Pendragon has been influencing game designers, right? But then the last 10 years, we've had these really big booms of influential designs popping up because of the internet, boom, Powered by the Apocalypse. And it changes into this third wave of design, and that becomes Forged in the Dark, boom, right? And then that changes, and now we're doing something else. So it's just really interesting to me.
Yeah. Do you take any influence from other mediums like video games, literature?
Yeah,
that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm an avid consumer of media. So like our inventory system in Tiny Dungeon is you draw your weapons in boxes, kind of like the old Baldur's Gate games.
Nice. Okay.
Right? How they would take up slots in the box. You have this box.
Shuffle them around.
Only so much can fit in the bag.
Right. And so it's like, I don't care how much you're carrying, just draw it in. Right. The goal is to make you think about it, not really put a hard and fast rule on it. So like there's that. I don't want to say super, it's going to make me sound like I'm really wishy-washy. I'm really heavily influenced by the media I consume.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we should be.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, right? But I'll see something awesome, and I'll go, I need to make a game about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
because
I have an RPG that I'm going to launch probably tonight. I don't know. I'll just turn it live at some point because I wrote it this weekend.
Oh, nice.
But,
say what you want to, but Stranger Things comes out, next thing you know, there's kids on bikes, everyone's playing Stranger Things games.
Right.
If they're taking systems that are not Stranger Things and making it look like Stranger Things.
Yeah. We have tiny D6 Stranger stuff. I've never seen Stranger Things. I don't know anything about it, but
it's good stuff, man.
But I read this article about a bunch of paintings in the public domain from a Russian painter whose official title was Professor of Maritime Landscapes and official painter of the Imperial Russian Navy. That was his job.
Wow, that's oddly specific.
Yeah.
Only in Russia.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. And so anyway, all his work is in the public domain. And the dude makes these beautiful oil paintings of seascapes, right? Real Master and Commander, Mutiny on the HMS Bounty vibe. Not pirates, but just massive, majestic ships, right? And he has 6,000 paintings in the public domain. Dude was prolific as hell. And so I went and downloaded all his paintings. I was like, find the hardest ones, download them. And then I just wrote a game so I could stick that art in a book.
Okay.
So I was like, I love this art. And I wrote it, I laid it out. It's gonna probably go live on Drive-Thru. It's a PDF. It's like a little 40-page story game, like a really narrative kind of story game.
Now, when you get into narrative games, I've seen there's kind of been a recent push for more narrative control dynamics, where players can go in and kind of contribute elements to the story, exchanging tokens with a DM or whatever to kind of accomplish that. Are these ideas that you've incorporated at all, or?
Yeah. So my third game we ever published was something called Cold Shadows, which is a John le Carré espionage spy game, right? So it wasn't the action spy stuff; it was more the quiet thriller spies. And when you roll in that game, you don't roll to see what happens. You roll for the privilege to control the narration.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when I roll against the GM, we're rolling to see who gets to tell how this happens. And if I'm the player and I win, I can be like, "You shoot me, I die." That's interesting in the narrative now, right?
Okay.
So you're not rolling for the binary success failure. You're saying who gets to tell the story.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you used to have to tell popcorn stories. And
kind of.
To see who wins, who's popcorn.
But we put a set of rules around it. We're like, okay, well, if you're really good at killing people, right, you're more likely to be in control in a scene about that part of the story.
Okay. Yeah. So you get a little bonus on your dice roll.
So you roll this dice pool and whoever wins. But you can wager dice. So you're like, all right, so I have 10 d6. I only need 5. And so I'm going to keep these 5 in my hand. I roll these 5. I win. These 5 become additional things I can say that are true about the scene.
Ah.
And even the player who loses gets to keep half of their wagers and do the same thing. So you can be like, I shoot you, you die. Yes, but my son is watching from behind the curtain and he vows vengeance, and that will be my next character. So you get this really cool ebb and flow, push and pull narrative game. Yeah, that was the third game we released as Gallant Games.
That's a pretty fascinating system. Now, it sounded like there is a DM or game master or whatever in that.
That one uses a narrator, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that actually going with that one.
But the game does have rules for 2-player and 1-player mode.
Okay, yeah. So you don't see that very often,
It's rare. That's pretty rare.
Well, I mean, if you find gaming groups, a lot of times, you run into people in the chat or, out on the interwebs that are saying, I'd love to get into gaming, but I don't have a gaming group. How do I get into this stuff? You can always be like, oh, yeah, I'll go online and find looking for a group kind of thing. But, that only goes so far. Sometimes you
Right.
need these games that can work and function at low player numbers, like 2 or 3, or apparently 1. I can't even really think of any games off the top of my head that are really catering to that market.
Our buddy there,
Rangers of the Shadow Forest, Delve, Cold Shadows, Tunnels and Trolls has a load of solo adventures. Call of Cthulhu has a load of solo. There's 5 off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, there they are.
So there's a lot of them, and our buddy there, the Liching Hour, he does several of those.
He does,
on his channel. You'll see him do those sorts of. He'll pull those games out and play them, like even just by himself, like just go through them and show you how it can be done.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I think it's really fascinating the way RPGs are sort of, and it's funny because they've been doing this for a long time, but because of the way social media works, I think we're seeing a lot more perception about it than we are anything else, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it feels like RPGs are really pushing the boundaries lately of how you can tell stories inside RPGs.
It really does. And I think people are finally taking notice of what it allows people to develop in terms of skill sets. It's a good tool if you're a writer, to come up with better stories. It's a cool tool if you're an actor. It's a cool tool if you're, a game designer, obviously, because you can learn how to do those things. Just understanding people, just understanding how people interact in stressful scenarios, telling stories, like all these things really evolve out of the tabletop experience. It's a great place to practice that stuff. Let's see, what's the chat saying over here?
Well, just before the question gets too far away, Alan, our friend, another member of Notorious DMG, Chuck, wants to know when you're going to play a game on Notorious DMG with me and him.
Well, when he sends me an email with a calendar invite, we can sort it out.
Nice.
Hear that, Chuck? Get on it, Chuck.
I'm very busy, so you have to book me in advance.
You have to book him in advance.
I have a day job. I have a side job. I'm doing this. I'm just don't have time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand how that goes.
You don't just wake up on a Thursday and Chuck says, I want to run something tonight, and you're there, right? That's just not how it works, right? So come on, get on it, Chuck. Nice.
So you kind of are getting into some of these game systems on the side and what they've been introducing. What are some other design choices that you'd like to do in the future? Or are there any things outside of the particular tiny world that you'd like to come up with?
Oh, man. So, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, open-ended question, I guess, there. Anything that you would like to share, I suppose.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah. No. So, yeah, I got loads of things. So, I mean, I love designing my tiny games, but I also like just doing other things because to me, the way rules tell stories is way more interesting than anything else. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not a big fan of settings in games a lot of the times. Like, I don't like writing them as a writer. Mm-hmm. Rephrase that. I'm a big fan when other people are writing them and I get them. But as a person who has to write them, they're not a thing I like. I would much rather write rules. I'm like, I want to explore how I can shape narrative and framework and storytelling.
Yeah,
right?
Like physics through the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that's more interesting to me. So if I could sit down and design rules all day, that's what I would do. I'd be like, I think I've got like a good 2 or 3 dozen rule sets in my like to be worked on later folder on my computer. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll be like, I have this idea for a game that uses a Nerf gun as the primary mechanic. Write it down. I've got one. I've got one in there. I'm never going to release it. My lawyer says I shouldn't because it involves like how hard something is, how many darts you put in the gun, then you play Russian roulette, and if you don't get shot, you do the thing.
Oh my god!
And my lawyer's like, you probably shouldn't release that. I'm like, that's fair.
That is fair, yeah.
It's a good way to get sued.
I was say you have to get a quick sponsorship.
You gotta have a particular kind of Nerf gun as well. Like my son has the Fortnite one, and there's no roulette to it. It fires right through the clip. So
yeah, so I'm just that's kind of where I've got loads of things like that, like really crazy ideas. Like I played with dice list, card-based games. I've done 2-player games that are just token swapping. Mm-hmm. I've done fighting games where you play like these cards and you do like different things. Like I've worked in 5e. I've worked in Pendragon. I've worked in you name a rule set, I probably worked in it.
Right on.
That's cool. We have a question coming in from chat saying if you enjoy rules and that's your bread and butter, why make like a rules light sort of game them like Tiny D6? Like. Mm-hmm. Does that hamstring your ability to make rules?
No, I actually think it frees me up because when the intellectual exercise and trying to pare something down to its essential minimal bottom line level, and then using that to tell good stories is much harder than adding crunchy rules. It's very easy to just keep adding rules to a game in a lot of ways, right? Like, oh, well, here's how disarm works. Okay, now here's this edge case for this. Well, here's this other edge case, right?
Right.
But to say, how do we do this down in one roll? How do we put this game in 40 pages, right? But still maintain a certain tactile and emotional response in the player, right? And I find that really interesting, and I think it's a stronger design challenge than making a complicated rule set.
Yeah, it's kind of that Twitter concept, of like limiting your characters makes you have to become more creative in how you put things out there. That's
when they created memes. You could tell a lot with a picture.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be my answer to Air Laser. And I joke about cornering the market. That's not really why I did. I actually really enjoy the ability to tell stories with the minimal amount of rules and enough rules to help me tell the story when I need them, but where they get out of the way when I don't want them.
Absolutely. So let's kind of circle back to your Kickstarter here a little bit.
Word.
So where are we at in that process? What are some of the stretch goals that you kind of are pushing out there? We kind of touched on a few in the general case, but kind of interested in what specific things people could be looking forward to.
Yeah, so for Tiny Cthulhu specifically, so let me look at our stretch goals right here.
I got it pulled up here. I was kind of taking a look myself.
Yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
It was nice.
I really like the cover art for the game. So we do something called micro settings in our tiny books, and they are like 6-page high-level setting overviews that are designed for you to take and tweak and run with whatever you want from them, kind of like launching pads for your campaign.
Gotcha.
And so that's something we've done since the start. And so we're unlocking a bunch of micro settings. They're all different themes, right? So anywhere from science fiction to fantasy to we have a World War I micro setting, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so we have these decks of cards that are like toolkits designed to help you. All the stuff in the cards is also in the book, but the cards are like for at your table if you want them. They're really helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
We have an adventure path called the Illumination of Aldebaran, which is, if you're familiar with the Yellow Sign mythos, there's stuff there.
Okay.
And we're only showing through 30,000, but we're at 22,000 after a week, and we're almost at 24.
Wow.
So
Nice. That's
there's a
outstanding.
chance we might have to add more stretch goals.
So this line right here pretty much sums up your tiny systems in general. It says simple but not stupid.
Yeah, my buddy Drew came up with that. Yeah, I've used it on every Kickstarter.
Design, but you can add a lot with that design. Like
I think I've used it on every Kickstarter since the second. Yeah, the dice glow in the dark too. So if you look at if you go on the pages, there's custom Tiny Cthulhu dice and they glow in the dark.
Yeah, I was just taking a look that you have dice listed on there. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so the tiny Kickstarters, we sort of have a set kind of format we've done. This is our 6th or 7th tiny Kickstarter at this point.
Wow.
So we've kind of got an established format that we know the fans like. Like there's always the book only pledge. There's the dice, the GM screen, and the GM screen is like a little cardboard, like a little cardstock trifold, like it's like this big. They're tiny.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Right. They basically hide the dice if you want them to. But then like there's the deluxe, which is like you get the soft cover book, you get you get the faux leather collector's edition, you get it all in this nifty handmade bag we make you that is themed to that campaign and only part of that Kickstarter campaign. So all your tiny books are in this little go bag you just run with.
Gotcha. See, there you go, folks. If you're trying to do a Kickstarter, this is the sort of stuff you should be doing. It works.
It's cool. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so and so basically we're just adding more pages to the book. Like we have some stretch goals for more art. We have some stretch goals for more stuff. So,
and
yeah,
you're already like twice your initial pledged goal. So I mean, you're knocking this thing out. You still got 26 days to go in this thing.
That's impressive. Yeah, we did. We had a great start. It was really gratifying to see. We haven't actually ran a tiny Kickstarter since 2018, so it was nice to do that.
You got a loyal fan base there somewhere, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I know where they are. They're always messaging me.
So
they're in our Discord. They're on our Facebook group.
Nice.
Gotcha.
So are you finding any commonalities between people that are attracted to your game systems?
A lot of them are actually experienced GMs who want something simpler for that they can just kind of run with.
Gotcha.
I think that's probably I haven't done like an exhaustive scientific poll,
Oh, sure,
Right.
sure. No, but
Sure.
But what I see a lot of is experienced GMs like it's just so easy to run because I know how RPGs work and this crap can get out of the way and I can just roll some dice. Like,
yeah.
And
You know what it seems perfect for is for groups that have a lot of time together, but not all that often. So then they can just pick something up, make characters, and just decide they're going to run a game and just go with it.
it's great for one
Are you
shots.
finding that's
Yep, it's great for one shots. It's great for conventions. It's great for teaching people who don't know how to play an RPG because when your character puts on a 3x5 note card, it's easy not to feel overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And just recognizing the 5 and 6 on a D6 a lot of times,
Right.
depending on what D6s you're using. Of
Right.
course, like this is excellent entry level for kids.
Yeah, we actually
I can
have
have my kids playing this game in no time.
we actually have an edition called Tiny Dungeon Hatchling Edition, which
Actually,
is rewritten by parents so kids can pick it up and run from it.
Oh, that's
that is
cool.
Super cool.
Yeah,
We're seeing
there needs to be
more and
more
more
of
of that.
this. Yeah, bring the next generation into the industry. Seems to be working. You see kids all
Look
the
at
time
me.
now at conventions. So
Look at me doing the Lord's work.
Speaking of conventions, are you making any rounds on the circuits for conventions with Gallant Knight Games?
Yeah, we do Gen Con every year.
nice.
We'll see you there then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
please come by our booth. Come say hi.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
we'll be there.
I'll be trying to sneak out from behind our exhibitor's booth.
Where you guys exhibit?
We
His
don't,
dad.
but my dad's an artist. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, David Lee
Yeah, we're
Pancake Service.
over. We distribute through Studio 2, so we're always in the big Studio 2 aisle with all the different publishers,
Yep.
like Savage Worlds and all that stuff. So we're always right there. We have a corner booth.
Yeah, we're usually in the back left corner somewhere.
You're on Artist
Yeah.
Row. as well.
Technically
yeah.
no, but yeah.
Not anymore? They kick
no.
you off Artist Row?
They don't want 3D artists in the artist row, so you have
Oh,
to be out
really?
on the exhibitors hall, but they sandwich you close to the artist. So we always get the corner, which is nice.
Yeah, no, come by. Come say hi. We'll play a game or something.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
we're definitely going to be there. So
Yeah,
we
we're,
booked the Airbnb. It's going to happen at this point. We booked the
Nice.
Airbnb, so we're good to go.
Awesome. We're doing SaltCon, which is local to me in Utah.
okay.
That's in like a week and a half.
Ooh, wow.
And then I think that's actually it this year. Normally we do other ones, but one of the ones we do closed. Yeah, and I think I kind of taken this year light on cons. I'm just focusing on getting product done and out.
After spending enough time at cons, yeah, it'll wear you down a little bit.
Well, and Gen Con, I love Gen Con, and it's always great when you're there. But the 11 months leading up to Gen Con are
Just get everything right,
well. And as an exhibitor who's trying to sell product, it's his own kind of thing.
It's
Yep.
probably a headache just figuring out how much your product you think you need to bring with you.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many people I see at Gen Con who underestimate how many units they're going to sell.
Mhm.
And they're handing out IOUs or taking down names and information by day 2.
Yeah.
It's-
I'll tell you,
It's
it's nice
fascinating
being
how
local,
quickly it
being Indiana based. We could just literally pop back to the house, make some more product, come back. So works out all right.
Yeah, that's nice for you.
Yeah, it's one of the few that we can actually pull that off.
Can I send you some boxes to put at your house?
We'll just trail off on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Some of my frequent writing companions are based in Indianapolis, and so I send them stuff. I was like, just hold this.
Nice.
Hold on to this till I get there. Meet me at the airport with it on this date.
Well, I sent last year. I think we sent our booth shirts because we were running late, and I had to order them. I like next day them to my buddy's
my
house in
God.
Indianapolis. So I'm like, just bring these to the convention. I have your exhibitor badge, so you can't get in anyway.
Clear off that fold out couch. That's where I'm staying for the week.
Yeah, I don't think my wife would go for that.
No. Yeah, so I mean, like you're saying, just the logistics of these conventions sometimes can be pretty challenging. So like people are trying to find hotels now for Gen Con. Whoa, good luck.
Yeah, it's that's and that's the thing that keeps me going every year as an exhibitor. Is I'm afraid if I don't go one year as an exhibitor, I won't be able to get the hotel the next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, or just get back in the exhibitor hall. I mean, it's so much of it
as
is
long
based
as
on.
Studio 2's going, because what Studio 2 does, they're super great. They rent the whole aisle,
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and
that
then
helps.
you basically sublease that section from them as one of their publishers, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So as a distributor, they do the thing, and then they say if you distribute through us, you can have a segment, and that comes with rooms and badges and stuff. So that's really convenient for us. So as long as they're going, we could maybe skip a year, but.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people we know that, skipped a year and they just never got back in. They
It's
repetition to get back in, and it's just everyone wants to be in there. There's only so much space.
it's a thing. Yeah, I love Gen Con. It's expensive.
It
It's
can
the
be.
biggest 4 days in gaming.
I
So
buy
if you're
s-
in gaming,
I-
that's the place to be.
I buy so many games every year.
Mhm.
He's like, this year I'm going to buy less. This year I'm going to buy less. And then like on Thursday, I think it was my second year or my third year. So I had an exhibitor badge. My wife didn't. So she was waiting outside to get in. And I was in for the hour before. Right.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, people are selling stuff. The hall's not open. I'm going to get everything I need. Right. And my wife's outside, like seeing like receipts pop up on her phone. Like,
Mhm.
See, he was smart.
Yep.
He made his wife get in that 2.5 hour will call line while he's going shopping. Everything's
no,
Honey, here's the line where you get your bag. I'll be back by lunch.
we mail order our events to us. I'm no fool.
Yep. Definitely.
Well,
man.
we get in on Tuesday, so we do will call on like
You,
Wednesday.
you don't want no part of that will call line.
No, we do it Wednesday or we don't do it.
Yeah, there's some specific treats to being an exhibitor. You know,
Well, you trust me, you pay for them.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you spend a lot of time working, that's for sure. But it's nice being able to go in there. People like us get to go and talk to each other at the beginning. We're all setting up an hour before everyone else gets to come in and make your
the
rounds.
ragged cheer at the end.
Yeah.
That's the shit's done. Everybody's like, oh, it's over.
Oh my god, thank you.
So, when you do something like a convention,
Yeah.
like you obviously have the book there.
Yeah.
But do you, with the character sheets being able to be so small and everything else, are you actually able to run like exhibition games of it, like at your booth?
I could. I don't, but I could.
Maybe not. Okay. I didn't know if it was something like. I know we see that sometimes there are places that'll have tables out where people can actually play it.
We could. So it's one of those things. It's one of the curses of being a small publisher. Like nobody who works our booth can sell our games as well as I can because I know them all really well, right?
Sure.
And so when somebody says, "Is it like this?" Oftentimes I know the answer,
Okay. Yeah.
right? But somebody who doesn't, if we have a volunteer, maybe a lot of times they just don't know it as well as I do, right? So when I'm not actively working the booth, we tend to sell less.
Okay.
So it basically means I got to work the booth, right?
Yeah.
I don't have time to run games or go shopping, and that's just one of the hurdles you have as a small publisher. Like that's kind of where you are, right? So, and we're not big enough that we can bring a bunch of volunteers in and train them and have them work the booth, right? Like that's not really financially reasonable.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, so it is interesting though. So like, if you're not getting a chance to see the game in action, what's your like sales pitch for it as you kind of go? I mean, I know we've kind of done our elevator pitch a little bit here.
after we've talked here, are you going to buy my game?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Right? Done. That's what this is literally the conversation I have with
It's the
people.
same
Like,
conversation right here that you just did.
Yep.
So now what you can do is you can take the wisdom check show and you can just
I'll just put it on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said some words on the show that I don't want to have people in my
So we
booth here.
warned you ahead of time,
You can
Yeah,
lightly
so-
edit these things.
No, but I mean, the sale it's not hard. Like a lot of people, I can explain the rules in 2 minutes, right? Like you saw me do here.
Sure.
I do that, and that's it. We're done. I showed them the art, and they're always like, I mean, if you haven't seen the art in our Mechas and Monsters book, then you need to go check it out because it will make you want to buy that game.
Nice.
I'm not even kidding. I don't know where I found this artist, but he is a godsend. And if you Google the Mechas and Monsters art,
I'll have to after this. for
it'll
sure.
it'll blow your mind.
That's sweet.
He's gonna go Google it right now.
Yeah, see, he's got the luxury of being able to do that, and some of the people in our chat obviously have the same. I'm sitting here staring at the screen, going, "Man, if I move anything, this whole thing's gonna crash."
Right?
Yeah. So you got obviously multiple lines here. Which ones are kind of your hot sellers at these cons?
The tiny D6 line is definitely our top seller.
Yeah.
It's flat out. Yep. Tiny Dungeon is like Mithril on Drive-Thru-RPG, which means it's in the top 0.15% of all sellers on Drive-Thru-RPG in the history of Drive-Thru-RPG.
That helps.
That's impressive.
So
Nice.
it might not be 0.15, but it's less than 1% reach Mithril.
Wow.
So
Congratulations
I think
on
it's- yeah, it was really exciting. So like, that one's definitely our big one. Tiny Supers is new to this year. It came out like right after Gen Con. We missed it by like a month, which is kind of annoying. So this will be the first year that's kind of rolling around out there. Mechas and Monsters always flies off the shelf. It's so weird. Like some years I'll bring 80 copies and we'll sell 2. And then one year I'm like, well, I'm bringing 15 and they're gone like in the first hour. And I'm like, I can't figure it out anymore.
Yeah, we have the same issues, man. One year after the other, it's always something different.
Yeah. So this year we'll have the Zorro RPG.
Oh, cool.
We'll have some Savage World stuff that we haven't had. We'll have some indie games. Gallon Night Games also serves as a publishing house for other independent creators.
Okay, cool.
So they publish their games through us. We put them into retail for them. We take them to cons for them.
Oh, that's an
Stuff
awesome
like that,
service.
so.
Yeah, so if there you got any budding designers and writers in the chat or on the channel, maybe this is a place to go. That's awesome. I mean, because you don't really see a ton of people. I mean, there are definitely people out there doing it, but we don't see enough people, I think, really picking up the next generation, whether it's kids or whether it's designers, or giving people a shot to get started, because that first open door is pretty important.
Gaming is best with other people.
Absolutely.
My goal is to have as many other people as possible playing games with me.
That's definitely been our mantra. I mean, that's why we're putting together the Discord, bringing people into the chat, bringing people onto the show, just trying to get as many different ideas and concepts out there as we can. Just because, I mean, if we just sit here and game with each other all the time and talk to each other, we get through some stuff and it's pretty entertaining. It's fun, but there's a lot of fertile ground out there that you only find once you bump into people.
Absolutely.
So, do you have any particular game that you said the Zora one was coming out soon? Is there one that you're going to be maybe launching at Gen Con? Or is that...
I try not to launch games to Gen Con. That's just...
too much? Yeah.
By then, will Cthulhu be close to out by then?
We have built our schedule that we should be able to deliver it before Gen Con and have Tiny Cthulhu at Gen Con.
Okay, so Cthulhu is kind of the answer then. It won't.
My hope,
but you'll have it there.
Yeah,
that'll be your new book when you show.
Yeah,
up.
my hope is always to have a new book at Gen Con, and this year it'll be Zorro and Cthulhu.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there any other games coming up this year that you're super excited for, like new ones?
Let's see. We just wrapped a Kickstarter in January for the Hero's Journey 2nd Edition. Tiny Cthulhu this month. This month is Tiny Taverns, where you play former adventurers running taverns in a fantasy world and trying to deal with chores and crazy stuff like that.
This is its own game?
Yep.
Tavern game is its own game?
It's a whole storytelling Tiny Dungeon take.
Okay.
What?
You're gonna love it.
That sounds awesome. I want to hear more already.
Okay, so it wasn't written by me actually. So my layout gentleman is a fellow named Robert Denton. He does all the Tiny D6 layout. He's been working with me since we started the company. He works for Fantasy Flight in AEG on the L5R line. Real nice guy. We've worked together for years. But he came to me and he was like, "Hey, so I really like slice of life anime stuff, right?"
Yeah. That's a weird genre. Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." He's like, "So I took Tiny Dungeon and I sort of fadified it and made it more of a storytelling game. And also, it all takes place in a tavern you run with your buddies as retired adventurers." And I was like, "That's interesting." And he's like, "Yes, it's also I wrote a 300-page book."
What?
300-page book on
I was like, "That's a little too much." And he was like, "Do you want to publish it?" I'm like, "Let's talk about this." But we're publishing it.
How did you get 300 pages out of a tavern?
It's a lot of it is like, what are the kind of plots and adventures you can have?
Oh, so it's not the drink menu. That's interesting.
Well, there is actually a whole section about questing for rare food items.
Yeah.
At 300 pages, there's got to be a drink menu at that point.
I think it's really 200 after everything. After art and layout and everything and editing, it's down to 200. But
if you just said 80 pages, I'd have been impressed.
it's great. It's finished actually.
Oh, that's cool.
I've held it in my hands. The only thing we haven't done is print it because print runs are really expensive. So basically, Gallon Eye Games fronted all the money up to the print run, and we're going to run a Kickstarter so we can do the print run.
Nice. Yeah, that's a smart model. Yeah.
Well, I was going to buy your Tiny Cthulhu, but now I'm going to buy your Tiny Tavern instead.
You can buy both. You can buy both.
But I mean,
you can buy Tiny Cthulhu right now on Kickstarter. Feel free to go back it. I'm not stopping you.
There it is. The upsell is real.
So Tiny Taverns is next month, and that's going to be awesome, and I'm really excited for that. And then we have a Kickstarter in April, and I have one in May, and I have one in June.
Holy cow!
I don't think I have one in July or August.
So you're taking a month off in July. Are you vacationing? Is that what's going on?
Well, so what happened was I kind of ran behind in production last year, and so we only did one Kickstarter last year. But I didn't stop working. Even though I was behind, and so I have all these games ready to go.
This year you just pump on them out.
So this year I'm gonna get them all out.
Well, I
also wrote 2 last weekend. So
you wrote 2 last weekend.
Holy cow!
Just in the span of a weekend, you cruised 2 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is Unbelievable.
Well, like one had other people working on it,
Okay. Yeah.
and the idea had been in my head, and it was using an existing rule set. I didn't have to like do loads of work.
Gotcha. Okay. I was gonna say,
But
good
I did-
lord,
I
man.
did write
Know that file where you started on them years ago and you're just polishing them off now. Like
That's what happens a lot. Is I'll be like, I have half a design here. Let's just finish it. Boom, done. Right. Get it to the editor. Get it to the playtesters.
Man.
Wow.
So I like writing games. I like playing games. I like thinking about games. That's what I do.
Man.
You know how when you don't do anything and where your brain
Mhm. No, that's
when
exactly.
you're not doing anything and your brain goes somewhere. Like for me, that's like thinking about rules and mechanics and design and like.
Do you find yourself leave yourself like post-it notes a lot? Like
No, but
like,
my
you just
note
write now,
app,
but I had an idea, so
my note app on my phone is littered with the debris of many ideas.
that sounds exactly like what our friend Cameron says when he's making music. He's like, I get an idea, I write this thing down, and then I come back to it like 9 years later.
Yep.
Yeah, that's. I've been there.
I used to be a massage therapist, and every time I was in the room, suddenly that's the first thing that's coming up. It's like, oh, this would be a cool game system. By the time the hour's up, or your hour and a half or whatever, come out and be like, oh god, let's write down some of those ideas. And, it's like remembering a dream. It's just like,
Yeah.
gone into the ether.
I do have the story ideas, but I guess I'm just not much of the rules creator kind of person myself.
Yeah.
Like that just blows my mind that you like knock out like 2 in a weekend.
It's like I said, one was using the existing rule set. I didn't have to do a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just tweaked what I wanted to tweak and moved on. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like one is a whole new rule set I wrote. Yeah.
Wow.
That's fun, man.
I like it. It's fun. It's exciting for me. Like, and it makes me a better designer. Like I'm pretty sure this first iteration of this new game is terrible.
Yeah. So what's the process like of going through and play
Did you
testing?
move up to tiny
Right,
D8s?
tiny
Is that what
D8s.
you're doing?
It's actually tiny D12, and each D12 counts as 2 dice.
Nobody uses the D12. This is genius.
Corner another market segment. Boom.
Boom.
Take that, great axe. We're coming for you.
Yeah. No, so I don't know. It depends. So like I can write a tiny D6 game in about a day now because I've written so many.
Yeah. Wow.
If I get my idea, I can sit down. Like I knocked out Tiny Cyberpunk like in 8 hours the other day.
Wow.
Right, because I'm very familiar with it. I know what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easy for me to translate that. Right.
That allows you to sit right on top of whatever the zeitgeist is going on, and as you said, like because you're so influenced by what's going on in social media or in just other medias, like a superhero genre movie pops out and superheroes get big. It's like boom, tiny supers. Like you toss right on there in no time. Then like you can stay right on top of that zeitgeist.
Well, and they actually sit there for a while too. Like I think I wrote Tiny Cyberpunk like 2 years ago.
Oh, good timing though.
I just haven't got it out.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
So it just depends, right? So like this new one from Hell's Heart, which is a Master and Commander style game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one took a lot more work, even though it's only like 30 pages, because I was like, this is all new. I'm trying to I have to word this right. This doesn't work, or am I communicating right? Like, and so I wrote it. I sent it to a couple of colleagues, and they give me feedback, and I reiterate, and that goes around a couple times, right? Then slap it in front of the editor and say, all right, let's polish it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got that iterative design thing going around. So what's the game testing like for your games? Is that all in house? Do you send it out?
I send it out.
Yeah.
I got a crew.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always interested in that process because like you see some of the big games, like the 5e doing the whole process with the fan base and taking the little pieces, or like right now we're looking at the Fallout 4 game that's being put out with the 2D twist kind of thing. And
I don't want to talk about that, Jeff.
that's okay. But there are things that I find interesting when you're like reading through these sorts of books and you're seeing how it's made, like how the sausage is put together. And you're seeing where things are done really well, some things are out of balance, and getting to play with that is really fun.
Right.
Seeing how that evolves throughout the playtest is really interesting.
No, I agree. It's fascinating. And I think as a designer, as you become more comfortable, some parts of it you can skip a little bit, right? Like I will go back to old manuscripts, and there'll be the notes that say like future Alan, fill this in.
Okay.
Right. And it's like stuff about hit points, right? Like nobody cares about that crap. Right.
Mm-hmm.
For purposes of playtesting, I don't need to tell a playtest group how hit points work normally. Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. For the packet. Yeah.
Yeah, so for the most part, actually, a lot of the hard stuff with playtesting for me is filtering out good feedback and bad feedback.
Right.
Like they're
Go ahead.
super. No, I mean, I'm sure you're about to say what I'm going to say. It's just really difficult.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is I'm surprised that you don't have like a regular set of playtesters who've done your other systems who understand it well enough that when you put the new stuff in, you'd get more valuable feedback.
But
immediately.
I don't feel like you can do that because you don't get, if they're too familiar, they won't see the holes.
Right. Yeah, they fill it in.
They will fill in the gaps automatically because they know how you
need fresh eyes. You feel like you need fresh eyes on the system each time.
Well, and I think you need different eyes, just in the sense that, like, if you get the same group that likes your product and they already know your system, they're going to be biased to like what you're putting out in the future. They're going, like you said, they're going to fill in the gaps, of any holes that you may have in the system.
I've never had any trouble with anybody giving me point blank feedback, so that's not a concern.
Okay.
You had to suggest the internet's full of opinions.
And armchair game designers, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm one of them, so what the hell?
That's how the process works.
Shots fired at me, right? No, like, it is full of opinions, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But, like, sending a final 1086 game to playtesters, no 1086 is fine, because the game's basically done.
Mm-hmm.
They're just looking for the new rules, right?
Right. Yeah, the difference?
But when I create and sending a new rule set to my regular 1086 playtesters is also fine, because it's a brand new rule set. They're not biased towards it. Mm-hmm. But it's the alpha beta area that you really have to be careful. It's like I'll alpha with my regular playtesters because they know it, right? And we communicate well. We know how to communicate. We're good. Mm-hmm. But the beta, I have to make sure new players are getting eyes on it. I always try to have one new GM.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Because that's where I'm going to get the best feedback usually.
Absolutely.
Where somebody goes, this is confusing. This does not make sense.
Now, with these playtests, like, are you looking at just single sessions, or are you looking at, long-term gameplay, or?
It depends on the game. That's super variable.
Okay.
A lot of the tiny ones we usually just do one because people play tiny so much. Like, a lot of the framework is solid. We don't need to reiterate on the basic, right? So
you're mostly just throwing like some of the new traits or things in there,
right? Like,
so they're functioning correctly, and you want those things to get used. So it's probably like pre-gen characters. Pick these, play them.
Or I'll say make your own character, but make sure everybody picks one of these type of traits.
Okay.
So we can make sure stuff like that. So.
Do you got any interesting stories about feedback? Like any?
Not that I want to share. Nope.
Not that he's gonna put back out there on the internet.
Fair enough. So there are some tasty ones in the mix.
Well, no, I mean, my playtesters are great. I don't have any problems with them. Like, they're fantastic. I love them all dearly. It's just the random people on the internet.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and to credit, when you're trying to get a lot of different eyes on it,
yeah,
you're going to get some. And like you said, not every game system is for everyone. So when you're not hand-picking the kind of people who you think are ultimately going to be your real fan base for the game, you're going to get a lot of people who are like, "This is dumb. I don't get it."
Well, and it's funny because now we're getting some serious conversation here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so it's really hard because I'm bipolar.
Okay.
So I deal with depression and manic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mood swings and stuff. And so putting my stuff in front of people who might knock it is very hard for me.
Sure.
Right? It's definitely an emotional and mental struggle. So on a good day, bad feedback, don't face me. Great, whatever. I don't care what you think, you dumb butt. Move on. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm right, you're wrong. But on a bad day, man, that'll send me into a spiral for 4 days.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like it's a bad day, do you just not open up your email that day? You're like, you know what? Just not doing it today.
A lot of it actually, a lot of it depends who it's from, right? And this is the hardest thing to learn over my 4 or 5 years so far doing this is managing that balance of sort of, because you can't succeed as an indie company without social media marketing, right?
Right.
Which means I have to be present on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I am naturally a private person. I do not like being present on the internet. And couple that with my mental illness, and I dislike it even more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's going to a place where people can willingly say mean things to me is not my idea of a good time.
Yeah.
And the internet's full of that, no matter what you're doing.
So it's the struggle to balance, like, all right, today is a day where my brain needs to not do this. And like releasing a product is always a terrible day in my brain because I'm like, oh crap, now everybody can see it and tell me I'm terrible and I'm the worst. Right? Like, and so there's this wavy balance of like learning where I have to exist emotionally and mentally as a game designer and a publisher and I'm going to say a public persona because I have to be public. I don't feel like I'm like a famous public persona, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right. To be accessible.
I have to be. And so, right. Or else it wouldn't work. And so there's that balance of figuring it out. Yeah. Like, and that's really hard. That's been the hardest thing to learn through this journey, as it were.
Yeah. And it seems like that's, like I have depression, so like I have at least part of that equation going. Right. But it's interesting when I talk to people on the show. I mean, it seems like that is super prevalent amongst creators, artists, people just interested in the gaming industry as a whole. So it's like it feels like good company, but I understand that it's like it is very difficult to do anything that puts yourself out there in a vulnerable state.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of it might be creatives. I think some of it is, the world kind of sucks sometimes. And it's hard to be optimistic, right? Like you can, and some of it's awareness. Like I'm very vocal about my mental illness because I spent most of my young years being told that's not really what you're feeling or what, right? Like there was a lot of stigma around that. And so I've been very vocal. Like we gotta be more upfront about the people and problems. And like, it's literally an illness. It will kill me if I don't treat it. Like,
yeah.
So
it's good. I mean, because you could definitely see there's a difference in the way people are dealing with these issues now than what they were, even 20 years ago.
Right.
So it's, I mean, especially with people that are, more in the forefront, more, like actors and, people in the area, just like coming out, talking about even like kind of rare ones, or, traumas and that kind of stuff. But, it's interesting because I do find that a lot of creatives seem to have that in common, and I don't know if that's like a driver, like it's something like you feel like you need to introspect so you have more time to think, maybe, or
I don't know. I'm not educated enough in the topic to even hazard a guess successfully.
Sure,
gotta be honest.
Yeah. But it is interesting though, because like with the rate that you're putting things out, you have lots of opportunities, to get feedback or try different things and see what works and what doesn't work. So maybe that's almost a way of kind of stepping around that a little bit by kind of diffusing it.
Maybe. I don't know. That's hard to say.
That's pretty cool.
And if the world ever starts to get negative, right, you just hop there on drive-through, look at your mythal rating, and then you just pull up all your successful Kickstarters.
If only it worked that way.
just pick up all the fan mail, right? And you're like, look, see, I'm
well, and that's the hang-up, right? Because nobody sends fan mail.
Like the ratio of good to bad is it's just like anywhere, right? People are way more likely to come back to your restaurant and complain than they are until you hey, great job, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it is that same ratio. So like
you have to make it super easy to get good feedback.
Right.
But you need an email taster that goes through and just pre-prunes them out.
I saved them all in a folder. And move them all to this like little folder where I'm like good vibes folder. Let's go through here and just reread some of these.
Nice. Yeah, that's a smart play. Yeah, that's the thing. We got to all sit there and focus on some of the positive things here and there.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's hard. Very hard to do.
It's a complicated world.
Amen to that. Indeed. So we want to start pointing people back towards some websites here.
We've been talking for a while.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and show them.
Drop that Kickstarter again while you start talking about a few other things here.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and tell them where we could find your content, where they can go to the Kickstarter, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find us at www.gallantnightgames.com. You can find all our games on drive-thru. Not all of our games are in retail stores, but a lot are. So you can ask your local game store about that. You can find me at alanbar.net, or my Twitter is at alanbar, ALANBHR. Gallant Night Games Twitter is at gallantkgames.
Okay.
There is a Gallant Night Games Discord, and there is a Gallant Night Facebook group. Both of them are linkable from the Tiny Cthulhu page. There's a little graphic at the bottom. You just click on in there.
Perfect.
They'll get you in.
Awesome. So we'll see if we can get some people kind of showing up over there. Definitely show them some support. Be much appreciated from us. And Dustin, what do we got going on? We got an army of things. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad we started just a little early on outros because we got a bunch of crap this week, Jeff. This is a crazy week for us. So tonight, obviously, Wisdom Check. We're here with Alan. Tomorrow night, Cameron is back for another episode of Bardic Knowledge, where he will make game music live right here for your enjoyment. And
Wait, seriously?
Oh yeah.
Seriously, yeah. 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
Yep.
Bardic Knowledge. He, like I was telling you, our friend Cameron, who has all that file folder of like random music he's made, he has like a folder where like he gets these ideas, he jotts them down, he makes it when he gets home and throws them in a folder. Well, we got him to start doing some of this live so that people can witness
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
tune in for that tomorrow, 8 p.m. here at TT2KB. You can watch and interact with Cameron as he tries his best to keep up with chat. He's doing better. We get on him every week. He's doing better.
Yeah, he's focused on making some amazing music, though.
He's going to start a new piece tomorrow from scratch, I think he said. So it'll be, we don't know which one of our characters. He's making characters for our 5e game right now. He's making music for each one of them. So he might pick Jeff's character. It could be mine. It could be Kodo. Who knows what he's going to do. But he's starting a new piece tomorrow. Wednesday, me, Jeff, Clint, Cameron, Levi, Tim, maybe. We don't know who will be there, but it's 7 Days to Die. 10 p.m. It's going to be a horde night. The Potato Bunker House is ready to go for a zombie apocalypse horde night. Tune in 10 p.m. to midnight on Wednesday for that Central Time. Thursday, my Zweihander game, Terror and Tree Fell. We're down to the last couple episodes. I might kill a player. You never know. It can happen. They're dealing with some extremely bad moral decisions right now. Two party members who were gone last game are going to find out everything their party did while they were gone, and it's going to be fantastic. So there's a demon threatening the world, and they have to decide if a little 8-year-old girl is worth sacrificing to stop it. And they're really close to just doing it. So,
jeez,
we'll see. We'll see how far I can push the envelope on this one before they break. But that'll be Thursday night, and then Friday, Jeff. Where are we at Friday?
Oh, I believe we're going to be in Chicago for C2E2, so we're going to be busy that weekend. So we're going to be doing some gaming. We're going to try to get recorded for you guys because we're going to be playing live together for a change. And then we're going to also be doing a panel, so you can come check it out. We're going to be talking about how to homebrew campaigns. So we're going to be giving some tips on that. Hopefully open it up some discussions. So if you got people, you got questions, who want to come talk to us live, that's the way to do it. We'll see if we can broadcast it. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll see if we can make it happen. And while you're there, definitely come by my dad's booth. So he's an artist, David Lee Pancake. He makes dragon sculptures. If you use that code that's linked there, you will actually get a discount on his online store. So you can go ahead and pick some of that out. And also check out his Patreon that we just launched. So there's some awesome things on there, some unique pieces that will only be available to patrons. And you're going to be able to see behind the scenes videos of making the art, as well as there's a layaway program that you can use. So if you want to get one of those giant dragon trophies, we can get that going. So let's see, what else have we got going on this weekend? Anything else? I think that pretty much sums us up, doesn't it?
That takes us into the weekend, and when we get back after C2E2 next week, here on the Wisdom Check, we are going to be, listen up, Air Laser, we're going to be starting an hour earlier next week.
Oh, that's good to know.
Because our guest next week is Jay Gray from Art House Saurian Games, and we're going to be talking some Witcher, and we're going to be talking some Cyberpunk here next week.
Yep.
So we got Jay Gray on here, so tune in next week when we talk some Cyberpunk, and obviously Witcher's been kind of a big deal since, Netflix show dropped.
Yeah.
Talk about staying on top of that zeitgeist.
Just finished watching that.
They're right on top of it. So
If
you like Witcher, if you like things Cyberpunk, we're gonna get into some nice long talks about it next week to accommodate Jay's schedule. Though we are going to start an hour earlier next week. As East Coast people,
Yay!
Jeff will be happy for that. So
awesome. Well, once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight there, Alan. And, thanks to the chat for coming and hanging out with us today. Make sure you go check out his stuff. And do we have a stream that we want to go raid tonight?
I was just starting to take a look at that. We'll hit Quest and Chaos here. I will get us a raid set up for Quest and Chaos.
Got it all
They
going?
do good stuff. They're doing some Dungeons and Dragons.
Fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and take you off over that direction. Let me go ahead and start running the outro, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right. Peace, everyone.
Peace.